This is CBC Winnipeg News.
Good evening. Thanks for joining us. They say good fences make good neighbors, but a homeowner in southwestern Winnipeg is burning mad about the size of a barrier going up between his property and the neighbor to the north. CBC's Bartley Kivas reports about a conflict in Wilkes South.
Heavy machinery is building up a berm. It's about 10 meters from base to crest. Glenn Hart's home faces this wall of mud, and he doesn't like what he sees.
Anybody that comes here, wants to know when the ski hill's opening up, when the lights are going up, chairlifts. Everybody that comes here cannot believe that it's happened.
The berm belongs to the neighbor to the north. She lived here for decades before Hart bought his property and built a home on a plot of land with no public road access. It didn't take long for tensions to emerge between the two property owners.
It is completely fair to say that the development by Mr. Hart of his property imposed significant inconvenience, hardship, and trouble on my client.
There's a moratorium on building new residential homes in all but a few parcels of Wilkes South, a wealthy neighborhood where there's no water and sewer service. Hart and his neighbor to the north share a private right-of-way, and when they started to squabble over the use of that road, the neighbors started building the berm between their properties.
The end result should be a rather attractive, well-landscaped property.
Glenn Hart does not agree.
It's Brady Landfill 2.0. It's a commercial dump site. They've allowed thousands and thousands of truckloads of fill in here.
Hart's neighbor has a permit to build this berm. There are no height restrictions on berms in Winnipeg. The neighborhood has a history of land use conflict. Just last year, the city allowed a Wilkes South homeowner to keep this 5,000 square foot garage built without any permits. Councillor Evan Duncan opposed that project and says he's frustrated the city can't do anything about the big berm.
This clearly is not within any sort of parameters that are set or practiced throughout the city of Winnipeg. And I want to remind people, this is the city of Winnipeg. This isn't the wild, wild west south of Wilkes.
Glenn Hart says the berm is not just ugly. He's worried his 4-year-old daughter could drown in a drainage ditch built alongside it. He says he's considering legal action against the city. In the meantime, this is what Glenn Hart sees out of his front window. Bartley Kivas, CBC News, Winnipeg.
The head of the Assembly of Manitoba Chiefs wants to see the search of the Prairie Green landfill continue in hopes of finding Mushkade Bishake Ikwe Iban, also known as Buffalo Woman. She's among the 4 women killed by convicted serial killer Jeremy Skibitsky. The remains of Morgan Harris and Mercedes Myron, 2 of the other women, were discovered at Prairie Green just months after the province started searching a targeted area. The CBC's Alana Cole reports.
With her identity unknown, she was given a name, Mushkade Bishake Ikwe Iban, or Buffalo Woman. The AMC's Grand Chief Kyra Wilson wants her to be found.
Everyone is watching Manitoba right now with this landfill search, and now we have an opportunity to show everybody that we're not going to leave anybody behind.
The woman is one of 4 victims of convicted killer Jeremy Skibitsky. Some of Rebecca Contois' remains were found at the Brady Road landfill in 2022. A search in a targeted area of the Prairie Green landfill has uncovered remains of Morgan Harris and Mercedes Myron. Wilson's grateful, but wants that search to keep going.
I know the discussion has always been primarily around Morgan Harris and Mercedes Myron, but I know that we are still needing to look for Buffalo Woman as well, and it's important to recognize that.
Police have said they believe Buffalo Woman was killed around March 15th, 2022, was in her 20s, Indigenous, and wore a baby fat jacket. DNA was found on the cuff. During trial, we learned Skibitsky told police he put her remains in a garbage bin. On Monday, the Premier was asked about Buffalo Woman after the province confirmed Myron's remains had been identified.
But today is really about the news that Mercedes Myron has been identified.
Winnipeg's new police chief has said they are still trying to identify Buffalo Woman. Today, Police declined to comment on whether they have information about where her remains are, whether that could be Prairie Green or at the Brady Road landfill. Alana Cole, CBC News, Winnipeg.
The cost of redeveloping the former Bay building in downtown has increased yet again. In total, it's now expected to cost more than double the original price set out by the Southern Chiefs organization in 2022. And as Bartley Kivas reports, some of the amenities that were planned have also been scaled back or removed altogether.
A crane alongside the former Bay building in downtown Winnipeg will soon start removing part of the roof as part of the transformation from department store into the mixed-use development called Wewene Bagakinagon. The Southern Chiefs organization has adjusted the cost of the project. Originally announced at $130 million, it was updated to $200 million and is now projected to be $310 million. SCO Grand Chief Jerry Daniels said the cost increase is due to more accurate budgeting and a more detailed design, as well as construction inflation and Donald Trump's trade war with Canada.
Well, I think the impact is going to be on the materials that we have to buy, so that's going to change and fluctuate prices. So we're all succumbed into that.
All three levels of government are contributing a combined $141 million to this project in the form of cash, loans, and tax relief. Daniels says the SEO has a plan to raise the rest of the money.
We will get there, and I guarantee that our team is well prepared for that.
At the same time, some amenities originally slated for the project have been cut, like assisted living units for elders, a museum and gallery, and a seat of governance for the SEO. A monument for survivors of residential and day schools has been scaled back, and a health and healing center may be cut for the project. Other amenities are staying, including a central atrium, rooftop gardens, 2 restaurants, a childcare center, and housing.
This historic space will be home to 373 housing units, including 200 affordable housing units for First Nations citizens.
The project has a new completion date. It's been pushed back to 2028, but there will be some form of ceremony in 2026 to mark the 100th anniversary of the opening of this former Bay building. Bartley Kivas, CBC News, Winnipeg.
An Ontario court is giving the Hudson's Bay Company more time to get its affairs in order. The iconic retailer wants to liquidate its assets after failing to secure enough financing to stay afloat. The extension protects HBC from creditors until Friday. Stakeholders will continue their negotiations. They could resolve outstanding issues and reach an agreement as early as tomorrow. Well, it was a sweeping victory for the NDP in Transcona last night. Longtime educator Shannon Corbett won the by-election and a seat in the Manitoba legislature. CBC's Ian Fraze breaks down the night.
Transcona has chosen its next MLA. The NDP's Shannon Corbett cruised to victory with 64% of the vote.
The word that just keeps coming to mind is grateful. I am so grateful.
A vice principal at Transcona Collegiate, she's an educator by trade, a career she shared with former MLA Nello Altamar. His death in January after being diagnosed with cancer left Transcona without representation. Corbett and Altamar were friends.
He was a fabulous leader, a fabulous mentor, and I'm just so grateful I had the time, and I can't believe I get to follow in his footsteps and continue what he started for Transcona.
After winning, Premier Wabkanu says their first call was to Nello's wife, Barb.
Barb was very, very happy and very magnanimous.
Corbett beat Progressive Conservative candidate Sean Nason and 2 others. Nason did not mince words after getting just 29% of the vote.
I just got my butt spanked.
The former city councillor says he'd consider running again.
Tonight we came up short on this achievement, but we know that this is only the beginning.
The Premier says Corbett vowed to campaign harder than anyone else in this by-election. She got more votes than the other 3 candidates combined. Ian Fraze, CBC News, Winnipeg.
Weather specialist Riley Laychuk in now. And Riley, today is the passing of a baton.
Yes. Whether you like it or not, yes, the changing of the seasons. I know there are some people out there who really enjoy winter and some of the winter sports, but yes, a lot of us are looking forward to spring as well. So, ending winter on a mainly sunny note across much of the south throughout the day today. I mean, a little bit of cloud kind of bobbing in and out here in the Red River Valley, and that's really been the case really right across the province today. Just a little bit of cloud hanging around, high pressure starting to clear us out a little bit. That's going to do a couple of things over the next couple of days. First, leave us a bit sunnier, but also cooling our temperatures down as we head toward the weekend. So partly cloudy overnight tonight, southwesterly winds down to -6, -5. First thing in the morning, a mix of sun and clouds, and that southerly wind helping us get to +4 by the afternoon tomorrow. So jumping above seasonal for this time of the year. It doesn't last long though, Brittany. I'll have more on that when I come back.
All right, thanks, Riley.
You're welcome.
Homeless no more. The province is helping find permanent housing for people previously living in encampments. We'll have the latest on the project straight ahead. You're watching CBC Winnipeg News. Stay with us. Manitoba's new strategy of moving people from encampments into homes is seeing some early success. Some camps have been cleared up and people are in new homes. CBC's Ian Fraze joins us live in the newsroom. So Ian, what's the progress been? How many people have now been helped?
About a dozen people living in tents have been moved to homes. Now, since the government started this project in mid-January, community agencies have started at one encampment, found homes for everybody living there, and then moved on to the next camp. So far, 5 encampments in downtown Winnipeg have been cleared. Bernadette Smith, the minister responsible for homelessness, says the people being helped are grateful.
Folks are receptive to that, and they've been waiting and they've heard about our plan. So as housing comes online, we're getting people housed with the proper supports.
So far, the province has only found a few people living in each encampment.
So meanwhile, the Tories are again hammering the NDP for the double-digit tax school increases. The top official in East St. Paul is calling them, quote, unprecedented. So Ian, what's different this year?
Really, it's how high taxes are rising. Some homeowners in the River East Transcona School Division are paying around 25% more. Now, because we're talking about East St. Paul, an area with some more expensive homes, the assessed value of those homes soared this year, and so are the taxes they have to pay. The municipality is now asking the province to get involved and see what can be done about this. Here's PC education critic Grant Jackson.
This letter is a cry for help from the municipality of East St. Paul on behalf of their taxpayers, and they are requesting that this government step in, provide emergency funding in tomorrow's budget so that the school divisions can lower these massive, historic tax increases.
The NDP is blaming the previous Tory government for not increasing education funding to meet demand.
We're very proud of the funding that we provided to Manitoba school divisions this year. It was a healthy, robust increase, building on the increases that we provided to schools last year after more than 7 years of cuts and freezes under the leadership of the previous PC government. We know that school divisions have a lot of catching up to do. We're here to work with them to do that work.
Some homeowners in East St. Paul will be paying $1,000 more in school taxes. Some homeowners even more. Brittany.
All right, thank you, Ian. That's CBC's Ian Fraze. Well, it's a long-standing Canadian tradition and usually signals the government's spending priorities ahead of the budget. This time, it's all about building Manitoba's economy. Instead of buying a new pair of shoes for himself ahead of Budget Day, Manitoba's Finance Minister Adrian Sala gifted steel-toed boots to construction students from TechVoc. Sala says tomorrow's budget will respond to threats Donald Trump is creating for our economy and Canadian sovereignty by focusing on job creation and supporting people impacted by tariffs. Sala says it's about building a more resilient and sustainable economy in Manitoba. The current financial situation at the University of Winnipeg is being called an existential threat. The president of the Faculty Association says this year the downtown university is facing a $4 million shortfall. He says historically the U of W has been chronically underfunded by the province compared to other universities. The federal government's cut to international students is also having a financial impact. He says there's a hiring freeze, but if the grants from the province don't increase, there could be implications on programs the U of W could continue to offer. The university has sent a report to the province requesting more equitable funding. Well, as temperatures begin to rise, Manitoba Public Insurance is reminding people of the dangers of driving on ice roads and lakes. CBC's Zubina Ahmed reports.
Open your window, and now I can start driving, and if there's any problem, if this breaks, I need to get out as quickly as possible.
With temperature rising and ice melting, Dr. Gordon Giesbrecht gives safety tips to people driving on ice roads.
Our general acronym that we use if your vehicle goes in the water is SWOC, S-W-O-C, seatbelts off, windows open, out immediately, and children first.
Giesbrecht wants people to prepare ahead of time in case any emergency occurs.
The problem if you wait is, and you're just all hooked in and everything, and the ice breaks through, you start getting really urgent and maybe even starting to panic, you might not even think of that first step.
Maria Campos from Manitoba Public Insurance says it's also important to check ice thickness while driving.
Recommended ice thicknesses for walking is 10 centimeters. For ATV or for one ATV or one snowmobile, it's roughly 12 centimeters. For a car, the ice should be around 20 to 30 centimeters thick.
Campos says MPI received 22 claims in 2024 for vehicles that went through ice, and 4 claims have been reported so far in 2025. She says going through ice into cold water is fatal as it can lead to hypothermia or drowning. Zabina Ahmed, CBC News, Winnipeg.
Riley, it's a good reminder because it's not that you just need to see open water for there to be an issue. Really, we can start seeing that at any time now, depending on where you are.
It's the hidden dangers, especially as we see the temperatures warming up, and especially as we go through the freeze-thaw cycle that we're going through as we get through the spring months here. And yes, that freeze-thaw, that roller coaster of temperatures continuing for the next several days. I'm going to start with our 10-day temperature trend, then we're going to work our way backwards and tell you how we get there. So let's take a look at some of the numbers here, because you'll see a pretty defined dip in the temperatures as we get later in the week, dropping below seasonal. Our normal high for this time of the year now, 1. So above that tomorrow, and then you see that cold front and a bit of a high pressure move in, cool us down for the weekend, before we jump back up above it again and then start to moderate a bit by the end of the month. So we're going into this spring thaw up and down period where we're looking at things melting during the day, a bit of freezing at night. That has an effect especially on the sidewalks if you're doing any walking as well. So looking at the next couple of days, tomorrow another day where we'll say rinse and repeat, mostly sunny skies, some clouds kind of bobbing in and out throughout the day. For Thursday into northern sections, so a weak disturbance pushes through, and this low pressure bringing a few flurries, maybe a little bit of a dusting of snow overnight into the morning hours for places like Grand Rapids, Norway House into Island Lake and Barons River. Not talking a lot of snow. We'll talk about that in a moment. But other than that, we are looking at clouds starting to build into the south as we get later in the day. So even by late afternoon, I think we'll be into a mainly cloudy sky for Winnipeg. So kind of the reverse from what we saw today with the cloudier morning, the sunnier afternoon. This is because we have a high pressure ridge starting to sink in here, and you can really see where that high pressure is quite defined on our futurecast here as we get into the day on Friday. And that's going to cool our temperatures down, but give us a bit of a brighter day as we head into Friday and Saturday. What I am watching is the system here developing in Montana. This could be our next weather maker as we get late into the weekend, early into next week. So we'll keep that in our back pocket as we get through the next couple of days here. Snowfall to come. I mean, trace in the Parkland region. Maybe you pick up a couple of centimeters in places like Islands Lake, Barons River. Don't expect more than really a dusting of snow into the morning hours tomorrow. As we wake up in the morning, above seasonal already to start the day. So -5 first thing in the morning for Brandon, -4s to -8s back to the west. And you can see where some of that colder air has started to sort of funnel into northern Saskatchewan, northern Manitoba as we get into the day on Thursday. So we start spring at +4 in Winnipeg. Clouds build into the afternoon, dropping to -7 by Friday, Brittany. And then we're all the way back up to +5 by the time we get into the middle of next week.
All right. Thanks, Riley.
You're welcome.
We have much more to come right after this. Stay with us. You're watching CBC Winnipeg News. With the federal election looming, the NDP appears to be in trouble. Its support has plummeted and it's at risk of losing official party status. Here's David Thurton with a look at the party's predicament.
Jagmeet Singh is a prolific campaigner, but the NDP leader heads into the next election facing this reality.
They kept the Liberal Party in power, and only for that reason I wouldn't vote for them.
It seems like their messaging and their branding really just hasn't been on point.
CBC's poll tracker, which aggregates public opinion polling, suggests a surge for the Liberals. The ruling party is now neck and neck with the Conservatives, but New Democrats are polling at new lows. Support for the NDP now sits at under 12%.
The NDP support has just tanked over the last few weeks, and they are in serious trouble.
Eric Grenier updates the poll tracker.
We probably have to go back to the 1990s to find the NDP polling so poorly and for this close to an election. I think this is what is really key for the New Democrats, is that right now they are in a lot of trouble and they're only a few days out from an election call.
But the NDP says they're not putting too much stock in that polling.
I think it's been a very volatile time. I think for everybody who's watching the polls, we're not in the same place we were a few months ago. And I think we're going to see some more change before the dust settles.
Canada was meant to be the 51st state.
Donald Trump has turned the next election on its head. The ballot box question now, who's the best to take on Trump?
But now with Mark Carney coming in, I'm really giving him a good consideration.
Carney is the one. Like you look at his resume. Poilievre hasn't had a job other than being a politician.
This all leaves Singh in a tough spot, fighting for not only the NDP's survival, but possibly his own political future, according to this former campaign director.
This is going to be, I think, for Mr. Singh, the election of his political career. And if he can meet the moment and rise to the occasion, Canadians will reward him.
Let's get ready.
Lately, Singh has been showing voters another side while comparing himself to the Conservative leader.
Now, Pierre Poilievre, on the other hand, has had this paid for by the public dental and medical coverage, yet he wants to cut it.
The NDP is an underdog in this race. As far as the party is concerned, there's still time to turn things around before voters make up their minds. David Thurton, CBC News, Ottawa.
U.S. President Donald Trump now says he would find it easier to deal with a Liberal leader in Canada than a Conservative one. The question is, why? Karina Roman looks at the possible reason.
U.S. President Donald Trump told Fox News that Canada's Conservative leader, Pierre Poilievre, is no friend of his, and in fact, he thinks it would be easier to deal with a Liberal. Fox host Laura Ingraham had suggested to Trump that the Liberals in Canada were now more likely to win a Canadian election, and asked Trump, wouldn't that mean Canada will be more hostile to the U.S.?
The Conservative that's running is stupidly no friend of mine. I don't know him, but he said negative things. So when he says negative things, I couldn't care less. I think it's easier to deal, actually, with a Liberal. And maybe they're going to win, but I don't really care. It doesn't matter to me at all.
This comes on the heels of Trump saying a couple of weeks ago that Poilievre was not a MAGA guy, even though one of Poilievre's MPs is good friends with Vice President J.D. Vance. Poilievre responded by agreeing he is not a MAGA guy, and today he agreed again with Trump's latest comments.
Yesterday, the president said that having a Liberal prime minister would be easier for him to deal with, just as he threatened once again to make us the 51st state. And you know what? On that point, it's true. I'm a strong leader. I'm a tough guy to deal with. I'm firm in my convictions, and I'll always put Canada first.
For weeks, the Liberals have been saying that Poilievre likes Trump, admires Trump, that his very words echo those of Trump. The Liberals released ads showing the two side by side saying very similar things. Such a framing is a problem for the Conservatives as Canada heads into a federal election campaign soon, in which who can best stand up to Trump will be a key factor. So, if voters take Trump at his word, they are not on the same page. A more cynical voter might see this, however, as Trump trying to help Poilievre by distancing himself. Karina Roman, CBC News, Ottawa.
Protesters in Montreal have vandalized a Tesla dealership in the city. It's seen as part of a backlash around the world against Tesla owner and close Trump ally Elon Musk. And the public anger is now also threatening the company's bottom line. CBC's Vanessa Lee has that story.
Two young environmental activists filmed themselves as they spray paint the Tesla dealership. An act of vandalism in broad daylight.
They took this action to take a stand against the billionaire class. Elon Musk, who is the owner of Tesla, is currently taking control of the United States democracy and is dismantling it by defunding all environmental protections.
It's the latest in a spate of crimes targeting everything Tesla, as founder Elon Musk's influence grows in the White House. Vehicles and charging stations have been defaced or damaged, and showrooms the site of Tesla takedown protests in recent weeks. The FBI's Joint Terrorism Task Force is investigating after Teslas were shot at and firebombed at a service center in Las Vegas. In Vancouver, the International Auto Show says it has removed Tesla as a participant at this week's event.
The political position on this has absolutely no bearing on the decision. This is purely from a safety point for our guests and our attendees.
Musk says he is shocked by what he calls hatred and violence from the left.
Tesla is a peaceful company. We've never done anything harmful. I've never done anything harmful. I've only done productive things. So I think we just have a deranged, there's some kind of mental illness thing going on here, because this doesn't make any sense.
But Musk has seen the haphazard slashing of the U.S. federal workforce. Some believe the backlash against the electric car maker is just the beginning of a larger movement against Donald Trump.
It's kind of the low-hanging fruit in a mass protest that is going to ramp up against, this kind of whole administration.
This growing wave of anger directed at Tesla is having an impact on its bottom line. Shares have fallen more than 40% since January. Vanessa Lee, CBC News, Montreal.
Tariffs and counter-tariffs are top of mind for one manufacturing hub in southern Manitoba. The sector employs thousands of people in the Morden-Winkler area. This week, CBC is in the Twin Cities as part of our Communities in Focus initiative. Whereas Rosanna Hempel reports, some companies are pivoting and putting their workers first.
From cabinet making in Morden to tractor cab manufacturing in Winkler, this area is a manufacturing hub in Manitoba. It's known for being innovative and resourceful. Now the Twin Cities and their industries face a common problem: American tariffs on Canadian goods.
It's stressful. It's really stressful. Not only just the financial impact will be huge, right? But just the stress of wondering, is it going to be or isn't it going to be?
Decor Cabinets employs about 540 people. At this facility in Morden, alder, maple, and walnut wood gets crafted into kitchen cabinets.
We make right around 100,000, so it's about 20 kitchens a day.
President Stan Paul says half their customers are in the United States.
If they had to pay 25% more for our product, it would virtually stop us from selling into the U.S.
So he says Decor has arranged to share the cost of a 25% levy with its American dealers. That is, if the tariff goes ahead April 2nd. Tektite Manufacturing in Winkler is dealing with that uncertainty too.
This map here basically shows where all the dealers that we've ever sold to are.
President Ted Mahood says American customers account for about 30% of their sales, and competition is stiff. Mahood says their business there could dry up quickly.
Were that to happen, then you've got the consequential results of likely a very hard recession in Canada, and of course then that's going to affect our domestic sales as well. So it's troubling.
This is where they assemble hundreds of cabs for compact tractors each year.
So all our steel comes in from Canadian sources?
From cutting to welding, to painting and putting on the final touches.
So this is one of our cabs almost ready to go.
They get most of their parts from Canada, except for glass, sourced from the U.S. Mahood says Canada's retaliatory tariffs could hurt them too.
We're always looking at alternative sources. I mean, COVID taught us that, that you can't rely on one source.
The Morden-Winkler area has about 80 manufacturers. The Winkler Chamber of Commerce says Winkler alone has at least 4,500 people working in manufacturing. President Doug Ide says local companies are already dealing with a 25% American levy on aluminum and steel. He's concerned even more tariffs could lead to downsizing.
Another 25% across-the-board tariff would definitely cause layoffs. That would affect everybody importing or exporting.
As a small, specialized business with 25 employees, Mahood wants to avoid that, as does the larger but close-knit decor team. Paul says they have about 50 couples on staff.
We're supporting the whole family, the whole household. I feel a weight, right? We have to make sure that these people, we're doing all we can to continue to give them jobs, right?
He says for now, sales are strong, but they're exploring all options so these families and work families can stay together. Rosanna Hempel, CBC News, Morden-Winkler.
Well, the anti-American sentiment being felt across Canada is more widespread than some may even think. How the boycott is growing and what it means for the U.S. More on that after the break. You're watching CBC Winnipeg News. Stay with us. The growing boycott of American-made goods isn't just happening in Canada. Many other parts of the world are also refusing to buy American and even canceling travel plans to the U.S. And it's more than tariffs that's fueling this trend. CBC's Nicole Williams reports.
Here in Ottawa and across the country, the Buy Canadian movement is alive and well.
Hello, welcome.
With an ongoing trade war with the U.S. and President Donald Trump's threats to make Canada the 51st state,
we're looking for ways that we can fight back or at least defend ourselves. And I think economically, buying Canadian makes perfect sense.
But shoppers here say it's a bit more specific than that.
Anything that says made in Canada or anywhere else in the world, just trying to avoid things that are made in America.
Turns out Canadians are not alone, from cutting back DEI initiatives to blaming the Ukrainian president for the war that Russia started. People around the world have their own reasons to turn their backs on the Trump administration. This world-renowned violinist canceled his American tour dates scheduled this summer.
I'm hurting myself with not being able to play those wonderful halls and orchestras and meeting all my friends in America. But I needed, for my own sake, a decision where I wouldn't feel wrong in what I'm doing.
In Sweden, this Facebook group dedicated to boycotting U.S. products has tens of thousands of members in just a few months.
I tried because I saw something and I didn't like it, and I tried. And that's how we in the group see ourselves.
This European grocery chain marking goods made on the continent with a black star to help customers at the checkout counter. But it's becoming bigger than produce. A recent report from Tourism Economics forecasts a dramatic drop in visits to the U.S. this year, meaning tourism spending could fall by $18 billion. But does all this mean much to the Trump administration? This economist isn't so sure.
If you think that it's going to actually do something, you're sorely mistaken. The U.S. economy is about $30 trillion per year, give or take.
Even still, the people I spoke to say it is the principle of the matter. As long as the Trump administration continues on the path that it's on, they say it is critical that they spend their dollar elsewhere. Nicole Williams, CBC News, Ottawa.
The Professional Tennis Players Association is suing the men's and women's tours, the International Tennis Federation, and the Sports Integrity Agency. The lawsuit alleges the organizations violate antitrust laws by functioning as a sort of cartel. Mike Crawley has more on the legal action and the Canadian athlete behind it.
There's a new sheriff in town.
Jack Draper seals his victory at one of the marquee stops on the men's tennis tour.
Champion of Indian Wells.
He gets $1.2 million for the win. Prize money is at the heart of the lawsuit launched by the Professional Tennis Players Association, a sort of union co-founded by one of the greatest players ever, Novak Djokovic, and a Canadian veteran of the circuit, Vasek Pospisil.
Tennis is in the dark ages, and that just needs to change. The whole system, the whole structure of tennis, everything needs to change, honestly, and this is the first step.
In much of pro sports, including hockey, golf, and football, players collectively earn around half the sport's revenue. At tennis grand slams like Wimbledon, the players' share is roughly 15%.
The third or fourth most watched sport in the world, second most bet on sport in the world, and there are barely 100 players on both the men and women's side that can make a living. I mean, there's something very wrong with that.
The lawsuit targets the organizations behind both the men's and women's tours, as well as the International Tennis Federation. It likens them to cartels, alleging they conspire to enrich themselves at the players' expense.
The tennis calendar is just brutal. It's basically 11 months, and there are so many mandatory events.
The organization behind the women's tour calls the legal action regrettable and misguided. The men's tour says the Players Association has consistently chosen division and distraction.
I'm a man of principle. I stand up to bullies, and I fight for what's right. In this case, I think the tours are the bullies.
Victory for
If the lawsuit does change pro tennis, Pospisil won't feel it on the tour. He's announced he'll retire this year. Mike Crawley, CBC News, Toronto.
Riley's back, and it was another nice day to get outside, but I know that you said we're still not completely off that roller coaster.
No, we're not. We've got a little ways to go yet, so if you're planning a walk, I mean, tomorrow's looking nice.
Perfect.
Tomorrow's looking very pleasant. With the dog walking forecast. Don't put the booties away, though, because you'll need those as you get through the next couple of days. Yep. So, that being said, here is our pup of the night, our friend of the evening. There we go. Mabel. Thank you, Allison. Mabel's prepared. Mabel hasn't quite put the booties away yet. You can keep sending your pics to talkback@cbc.ca, just like Allison did. So we're looking at +4 by the time we get to the afternoon, helped by that southerly wind. I mean, gusting up to 30 at times tomorrow through the afternoon, but it will feel, I think, quite pleasant out there, even with a little bit of a breeze, and clouds build in as we get into the evening. So here we go. Right now, +1 in Winnipeg. We actually got to +2 through the afternoon hours today. Really much of the south around the freezing mark today. 0 in Dauphin at the moment. Thompson's at -8 and -14s and -15s in Churchill and Dooley Lake. That area of low pressure that wreaked havoc on parts of northern Manitoba still on the northern edge of Hudson Bay, and that's bringing a westerly flow and some of that cold air right onto the Hudson Bay coast. But I did want to show you what's happening south of the border. This system here, this originated in Colorado, so it is a Colorado low, and it has dodged us here in southern Manitoba, spreading quite a bit of snow through the U.S. Midwest. So there's winter storm watches and warnings right through the Midwest. And on the eastern side of this, tornado watches, severe thunderstorm watches and warnings. All of this is headed up towards southern Ontario. So we're looking at some rain in parts of southern Ontario as we get toward the end of the week, and maybe even some thunderstorm activity as well. Overnight temperatures tonight, -6s and -7s to the Red River Valley. Maybe you get to -10 back to the west, but around -9 in Brandon, a partly cloudy sky as we get through the night tonight. In northern Manitoba, looking at temperatures around -10 to -12 through much of the region, -18 in Thompson, maybe a few flurries, and Churchill looking at -22 overnight. As we get through the day on Thursday, a few flurries first thing in the morning through Norway House, Island Lake, Barons River. By the afternoon, getting up to -2 in Grand Rapids, -5 in the Pas and OCN, and still some very gusty winds along the Hudson Bay coast, -18 in Churchill through the afternoon hours. Into southern Manitoba, 3 degrees in the afternoon for Dauphin. 4s, 6s, even a 9 in Emerson in the afternoon. Mostly sunny to start, then we'll start to see a little bit of cloud building in as we get through the afternoon, and looking at another above seasonal day, Brittany, as we get through your day on Thursday.
Thank you, Riley.
You're welcome.
Well, if you have a sweet tooth for chocolate, brace yourself. Your favorite chocolate bar might get a lot more expensive, and it's not just because of tariffs. CBC's Ethan Williams reports.
Faye Moffat is hard at work making her next batch of specialty chocolates, but the Saskatoon chocolatier is finding it much more expensive to purchase the cocoa she needs for her sweet snacks.
In 2023, it was about $3,300 a ton, and now it's up to about $10,000 to $12,000 a ton. So it's 3 to 4 times increased over the last year and a half.
It all stems from poor conditions for growing cocoa. Major cocoa-producing countries in West Africa have faced extreme temperatures, floods, and drought in recent growing seasons, ruining cocoa harvests. And conditions are only getting worse.
All of these different impacts are traced, they're more extreme and they're more frequent due to climate change, even though you can't attribute necessarily a single event due to climate change. But these have been tracked over the last 10 or 20 years, and you can see the increase in intensity and frequency.
One researcher says despite the resulting price hike on chocolate, the profits are not reaching cocoa farmers, preventing them from adapting to climate change.
They are not able to invest in their farms to regenerate their cacao trees, have more productive trees that are planted, or fight the disease and viruses that are affecting the tree.
It's not just the weather thousands of kilometers away that impacts Moffat's Saskatchewan business. Hotter summers here and hot temperatures lasting well into fall can melt her chocolate creations.
On weeks where it's, in the high 20s or 30s, we tend to not ship our chocolate unless our client really wants it. And then we will put ice packs in, but there are definitely times where we just have to slow our shipping.
And keeping all that chocolate cool with those ice packs and air conditioning is costly, adding to the already skyrocketing price of cocoa. And while she may not be able to buy her cocoa locally, Moffat says she works to buy everything else for her shop from Canada, supporting local industry while saving a few dollars. Ethan Williams, CBC News, Regina.
Still ahead, Riley is back with a last check on our last winter forecast. You're watching CBC Winnipeg News.
Winkler and Morden, let's get to know each other a little bit better. CBC's Communities in Focus is coming to your communities March 17th to 21st. Visit cbc.ca/Manitoba/community for details.
All right, let's have a look at your 7-day forecast as we enter spring, up to +4 for Winnipeg tomorrow. And then that cold pocket of air starts to sink in. So, a bit of a brighter day on Friday. Northwesterly winds up to 40, -7, -4 for Saturday, -1 for Sunday. Slight chance maybe we see a couple of flurries. There's that system I'm watching south of the border that could impact us Sunday into Monday. And then temperatures after that, above seasonal, 4s and 5s. And in case you're wondering and you feel like setting your alarm, we're officially entering spring at 4:01 tomorrow morning.
I'm sure people will get right on that.
Absolutely. Well, today being the last official day of winter, many people are excited to welcome a new season, even if there are others that love the winter sports.
And maybe not at 4:01,
yes.
But thinking about spring is a happy thought for many Winnipeggers. So CBC's Jim Agapito brings us tonight's Daily Lift.
It's almost spring, and since the snow has been melting, I wanted to ask Manitobans how they felt about the upcoming season and what the word spring means to them.
I love the trees, the green. So the melting snow, when you can start to see the grass and the squirrels and the birds are coming back, that's like, oh, awesome.
Obviously, spring in Manitoba is the best thing ever.
When I say spring in Winnipeg, what's the first word that comes to mind?
Excitement.
Okay, why excitement?
Because we've waited very long through a hard winter inside, and we all have to be indoors many weeks in a row.
What's the first word that comes to mind when I say spring in Winnipeg?
Flowers. I love when they plant the flowers in the park.
What are you looking forward to the most about spring?
Just the weather. Just the evenings, the beautiful weather that we have. Planting a new garden, that is like obviously the best part about spring as well. So it gives us an opportunity to get happy again.
A lot of people ready to ditch the winter jackets, maybe have some evening bonfires as we warm up a little bit.
I do really like opening my balcony door first thing in the morning and just smelling the fresh air.
Very fresh. Oh, I can't wait. Spring
know.
officially here tomorrow.
Very early in the morning.
Little extra pep in your step, maybe.
Exactly. I hope people are smiling, especially with that +4.
Right? We wish you have a wonderful night. We will see you back here tomorrow.
Have a good one.